In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
You still struggle trying to find a sweetener that fits your ketogenic lifestyle? Then let me introduce you to Swerve. Swerve tastes like sugar and there's no funky aftertaste that you get from all those other high-intensity sweeteners. Swerve actually looks like sugar and you may not even realize it, but granular and particle size have a lot to do with how foods feel in the mouth. Because Swerve measures cup for cup just like sugar, it is super easy to use. Swerve has taken away the guesswork on how much to use in your recipes. You simply swap it 1 for 1 for sugar. Swerve is the perfect sweetener for baking and cooking, and unlike other sugar alternatives, Swerve browns and caramelizes just like sugar, which means creme brulee and meringues are even possible. The best part is Swerve has very little impact on blood sugar and insulin levels, making it perfect for a diabetic or anyone following a ketogenic lifestyle. Swerve is made from erythritol as well as oligosaccharides, which is a form of prebiotic fiber to help stimulate beneficial bacteria in the intestines. All the ingredients found in Swerve are from the United States and Europe, and Swerve has been in business for more than 16 years. Headquartered in the good old USA in New Orleans, everybody in keto is now using Swerve, and it's your turn too. Go to swervesweet.com to find a store near you, and it's also available on Amazon.com. Swerve, the ultimate sugar replacement.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live. And we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. Here's how the fun works. We start off over on Instagram and do a couple of live videos every single day. So go follow me on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content, just like all of these people's right here are doing right now. Welcome in, you guys. Thanks for being here. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it does disappear from Instagram, but we got you covered. We throw all the past episodes up on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in a keyword search Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, we have the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast on Apple Podcast as well as Stitcher. JimmyRants.com is the link to all of the ways you can access this show. Today's Jimmy Rants is one I tried to do a little bit earlier, but my phone overheated. But we're here once again to talk about an interesting development that we found out about this week. So we all know that so many of us came to keto as a direct result of being severely addicted to sugar. So many of us got addicted to sugar when we were kids, and you might be wondering, I wonder why our generation, I'm from the Generation X, but even like all of the generations since then, we've all become highly addicted to sugar. What happened? Was there some moment where things started to change? And actually, thanks to newly discovered documents, there has been, and it's going to be a shocking reason why. Would it shock you to learn, and what we're going to talk about here today, is that the cigarette companies and their very slick marketing was what got you addicted to sugar. So the article I'm going to read from How Big Tobacco Hooked Children on Sugary Drinks. And this was published, you guys, in the Science Times. Okay? So, yeah, this was in the New York Times. Science Times is like their science division. All right, so let's see if you recognize a few of these characters. Remember Joe Cool? Joe Camel was the mascot for cigarettes there. And then we had the Hawaiian Punch character, and then the little character, that's the Hawaiian Punch character, and then the Kool-Aid man. Everybody remembers the Kool-Aid man. So what we learned in this news story is that researchers got access to the archives that cigarette makers used in the midst of them not being able to market to children anymore. They're like, okay, if you're not going to allow us to legally market cigarettes to children, nor should they, then we're going to buy up companies that sell sugary swill, and we're going to use the exact same marketing strategies to market to your kids. And this was a very deliberate attempt, you guys. So this all happened about the time that I was a kid. All of these things were being put into place that would make kids want to have these sugary drinks. So Joe Camel, Kool-Aid Man, and the maniacal mascot for Hawaiian Punch all have one thing in common. All of them were created by Big Tobacco. When cigarette makers seeking to diversify their holdings because they were losing money acquired America's iconic beverage brands, they used expertise in things like flavoring, coloring, and marketing, and directly appealed to children. So tobacco companies once sold other drinks that you might find familiar if you're of a certain age. Tang, Capri Sun, and Kool-Aid were all a part of their portfolios. But researchers recently began combing through a vast archive of cigarette company documents at UC San Francisco, and they came across something very revealing. That internal correspondence was going on that shows tobacco executives were barred from targeting children for cigarette sales, so they shifted their marketing focus onto young people to sell sugary beverages in ways that had never been done before. So in these documents, in this archive, the documents called Truth Tobacco Industry Documents, it was a settlement between the major cigarette companies and states that wanted to recoup smoking-related healthcare costs. So researchers started poring over all of that data, you guys, and they finally published their findings just recently in the medical journal, British Medical Journal. So they used flavorings that had been in the tobacco products. They used cartoon characters. There's so many cartoon characters from the 1980s and beyond. Tony the Tiger, they're great. The Rice Krispie treat and Rice Krispie characters, those three little guys. There's so many little characters that now became the norm in marketing, but it was actually the tobacco companies that started that all with Hawaiian Punch and Kool-Aid. I remember when I was a kid in the 1980s and we saw the Kool-Aid man come on the screen, it made us all want to go have Kool-Aid. And Mama used to buy that, and we get the little Kool-Aid cups, and we would earn points to get these things in the mail. It was a very elaborate marketing scheme that got us on sugar. Pretty disgusting. All right. So the companies cultivated loyalty to all of these sugar-laden products that health experts say greatly contributed to the obesity crisis. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about a new article that reveals some really interesting information about how Big Tobacco, when they were no longer allowed to market to children anymore, what did they do? They bought up companies that sold sugary drinks, and then they started heavily marketing those drinks like Kool-Aid and Hawaiian Punch and Capri Sun and all that to kids. And they used a lot of the same marketing strategies that they were using with their cigarettes before they were banned from using that. They started doing it. So they got like cartoon characters, and they got flavors that kids would be enjoy, branded toys that they would put. We started seeing toys show up in cereal boxes, and then they poured millions upon millions of dollars in advertising on television primarily. So the study authors said it was important to chart how all these companies created and marketed this junk food and sugary drinks to youngsters. One of the authors on the study is a professor of health policy at UCSF School of Medicine. Her name, Laura Schmidt. And Laura said, we have a chronic disease epidemic, but we don't understand the vectors very well. These new documents that we've unveiled help us understand how the food and beverage companies use strategic and crafty tactics to get us hooked on unhealthy products. And it makes me wonder, in light of all of this behind the scenes stuff that's happened, that's now coming to light, all of us that were kids at this time, which I was a kid in the 1980s, and I wonder, will there be any legal ramifications from this? Now that we know they specifically crafted these products to make them highly addicted so that you would want to have more and more, and we also know that they heavily targeted directly to people like me and others my age when I was a kid, I wonder if there's any legal ramifications that could come from that as to why so many of us, once we became adults, struggled with obesity, struggled with sugar addiction, struggled with health issues, insulin resistance related and otherwise. I don't know. I don't know what the ramifications. It's probably very hard to prove. You have to prove that they deliberately knew that those things were obesogenic and would destroy your health, and that they somehow forced you to eat it. It would be very difficult to prove. But it does make me mad now, knowing when I was a kid, I was being heavily marketed to, and yet I wasn't the one making the decisions about what to buy. That was my parents. And so they know in the marketing, just get to the kids will whine and complain enough that the parent will buy whatever it is to shut up the kid. And so it was very crafty on their part. But I had no control over it. I had no control that they were heavily marketing to me. I had no control that they made me want to go get that thing and drive my parents crazy to go get Kool-Aid. McDonald's is probably very notorious for that as well in their marketing. So this started, you guys, with the tobacco companies using their strategies for marketing. R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris no longer own these brands, and they declined to comment for this story, as did all the companies that now own the brands. Experts say that tobacco executives had a keen appreciation for the importance of earning consumer loyalty at a very early age. Jennifer Harris studies corporate marketing at the Rood Center for Food Policy and Obesity at the University of Connecticut. She said introducing sweet beverages to young children had lifelong implications. If we got kids used to drinking Kool-Aid instead of water, she said, they're always going to prefer having a sugary beverage. She was not involved in the study, but she said the advertising creates a positive association with these products in the minds of children. I had nothing but a positive experience thinking about brands like Tang. They used to market it to us because, oh, that's what the astronauts drank. Oh, I want to drink what astronauts drink. So they were very, very crafty at how they presented all this. So they go into how Hawaiian Punch, when it originally was created, you guys, was not intended for kids at all. Hawaiian Punch, when it started being advertised in the 1950s, was originally marketed to adults. That little character, the little cartoon character, he was not out yet. and it wasn't that really sweetened red, really deep red sugary swill yet. It originally was sold as a cocktail mixer for adults. It came in 2 flavors. But what happened? In 1963, R.J. Reynolds bought the company, started rebranding it. This was about the time that they could no longer market to kids. So they started rebranding this sugary swill, Hawaiian Punch, and executives expanded the flavor profile to 16 flavors. And what they found was, let's make a cartoon character so that it appeals greatly to kids. So that's where they came up with the little Punchy, the little guy named Punchy. Let's see if I got the picture. Yeah, there's Punchy. So we all remember Punchy when we were kids. And it was Punchy that became the spokesperson for Hawaiian Punch. And we soon saw him in comic strips and drinking cups and wristwatches. He made a lot of appearances in TV ads, touting the Hawaiian Punch had a lot of vitamin C in it. And that's how they got us, you guys. They made health claims like it's full of vitamin C, but then they weren't telling people the gobs upon gobs upon gobs of sugar they were putting in this. And the interesting thing about this happening too around this same time was when all of these foods that had just sugar in them stopped using sugar and they started switching over to a cheaper sweetener called high fructose corn syrup. That happened in 1972 is when they started putting in lots and lots of high fructose corn syrup into all these products. So along with heavy marketing of these things, they also were adding high fructose corn syrup. In 1973, the company's in-house publication, RGR World, called Punchy Instant Eye Appeal, and it called him the best salesman the beverage had ever had. They had him hooked. They had all the kids hooked. Everybody wanted Hawaiian Punch because they heavily marketed it to kids. That same year, R.J. Reynolds introduced Pop Top 8-ounce cans that are perfect for children, according to the company documents. It provided an alternative to the huge metal canister that had to be punctured by a grown-up and opened with a can opener. By the 1980s, Hawaiian Punch was pulling in $200 million a year, and the growth was fueled then by the introduction of the juice box. So if you ever have gotten a juice box or you ever have given a juice box to a kid in your life, you can thank Hawaiian Punch for that. They were the ones that came up with that in the 1980s, where you got a little straw with the juice box. They also came out with several different other versions, powdered versions, frozen cylinder, so forth and so on. One of the authors of the study, Dr. Schmidt, said the marriage of tobacco companies and sweetened beverage brands was about more than just marketing. These cigarette companies, you guys, were frequently introducing new flavors to their tobacco. Many of the chemicals that went into things like cherry-scented chewing tobacco, if you liked cherry flavor in, say, Kool-Aid, you can thank that it was originally in tobacco products. I wonder how many people realize that the cherry flavor of Kool-Aid actually started as a tobacco additive. And apple-flavored cigarettes found their way into the children's drinks. A 1985 company report attributed the success of Hawaiian Punch to the scientists. See, guys, this is where food lab scientists got involved in the food supply. And once they started adding all of these additives and flavor compounds, adding in all these things that made you want to have more and more and more, that's when the food became highly palatable and highly addictive. This was by design. I want you to hear this loud and clear on this Jimmy Rants. This all didn't just happen by accident. You did not get addicted to sugar by accident. You were a part of a very elaborate marketing scheme that shockingly, we're just finding out in this story I'm reading from, shockingly came from the tobacco companies. So when they could no longer peddle their cigarettes to kids, they're like, okay, we got something that'll keep kids coming back for many years to come. There's a lot of adults today, they're still heavily addicted to sugar. They still drink Hawaiian Punch. They still drink Kool-Aid. And they're feeding it to their kids, creating a new generation of addicted people. It's ruthless, you guys. So, because of all the success of the marketing campaign, they got lots of money and they knew that government regulation was mounting. All of the cigarette companies accelerated purchasing food and beverage companies. 1985, Philip Morris was so impressed with what happened with RGR and Nabisco buying Hawaiian Punch that they bought Kool-Aid, and that's where we started getting the Kool-Aid Man. So 1986, Kool-Aid reflected the company's new focus on marketing to youngsters. For decades, it had been sold in powder form only as a cheap alternative to soda, ads aimed squarely at housewives that were penny pitching. So they doubled the amount of money that they spent on marketing to children, spent $6 million a year to market to children. And so they started focusing on the kids, you guys. This is the sad part. They deliberately went after kids. Now, I was a kid at that time when this happened. I was an older kid at that point, but still, they did this to try to appeal to people like me. And now that I'm older and a bit wiser than I was then, I am disgusted by this. I'm not anti-capital. I'm not anti-businesses doing what they have to do to make money. But when you target a generation of people for the sole purpose of trying to make them addicted to your product and stay addicted for life so they become customers for life, and then, oh yeah, by the way, when they become adults and start having kids themselves, they pass on those same habits to their kids. Yeah, it's a recipe for making customers, but it's also extraordinarily bad for our total health of our society. And this is part of the reason why keto is so proliferated these days. People have gotten into this mess because they got so addicted earlier in life that they're now having to, later in life, hopefully some of you not as late as others, but later in life, having to do something to mitigate the effects of that sugar addiction. Let's see here. 1992, a Philip Morris marketing analysis talked about collaborating with toy makers like Nintendo and Mattel, so it would become the most effective kids marketing vehicle known. Also around 1992, not in this story, I remember this, McDonald's teamed up with Jurassic Park, the original movie, and they put out Jurassic Park type of like cups and all these little toys. They knew the model by that point. They had already proven the model of appeal to kids, give them a toy. That's why all the cereal companies threw toys in the bottom of their box. They knew what it took to get kids addicted, knowing the parents would buy it for them. Kool-Aid had expanded into frozen pops, bursts, jammers, and shots. Came in dozens of flavors. A 1966 ad for Tang focused on mothers. And again, they focused on trying to say, this is what astronauts drink, so you got to drink it too. The success with Kool-Aid persuaded Philip Morris that it could do the exact same thing with Tang. The 1950s era powder drink people of a certain age will remember was favored by astronauts, supposedly. Philip Morris inherited Tang from General Foods, and they declared the brand as dead as the space program. So they rebranded it for young adolescents. The company unleashed a wave of television ads, positioned Tang as an extreme orange breakfast drink for today's extreme tweens. The ads featured orangutans on motorcycles, sleepy teens zapped awake by a glass of sugary Tang. The company forged marketing efforts with Sports Illustrated, Schwinn bicycles, and then created a loyalty program as well. Tang ended up in the portfolio of the snack food giant Mondelez International, which owns Oreo, Cadbury, and Nabisco. Tang may have lost some of its pizzazz in the U.S., but it still has broad appeal overseas in developing world, where it's been creating new flavors to appeal to the local taste. According to the company's website, it brought in $900 million in 2016. So guys, whether you realize it or not, you're addicted to sugar today, or you got addicted when you were younger as a direct result of big tobacco. Who knew? Who knew? And all these years later, all of that behind the scenes stuff where they were specifically targeting young people, if that was out in the open today, they would shut that business down. They would not allow that kind of thing. And it makes me wonder how much other stuff is going on beneath the radar that we're going to have to wait 50 years from now, when all these sugary companies and the lawsuits and the things that happen from that, just like tobacco's dealt with lawsuits, they had to reveal all these documents as a settlement in the lawsuit. I wonder how many of these sugar companies right now that are peddling all this sugary swill, which thank goodness is on the decline because people aren't buying that stuff anymore. They know the health effects. I wonder how many shenanigans are going on behind the scenes even now to promote this kind of stuff and to put things in it that they know will keep people coming back again and again and again, to keep you addicted, even beyond the sugary effects, even some of the chemicals. And the thing about that too is we don't know what the effect of all those chemicals and additives and colorings and all of that is doing to our body. It's why you hear me preach it early and often here on Jimmy Rants. Get back to real whole foods again. Mostly real whole foods, and you get out of this system that would ever make you addicted to Hawaiian Punch or to Kool-Aid or any of the other sugary things that we got addicted to as we got older. All right, guys, so let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. And again, if you're just joining us and you joined me a little bit earlier, this is the redux of this Jimmy Rants, because I was in the midst of the Jimmy Rants doing this exact one, and my phone overheated. I was in my car, and it just totally overheated. So we're doing it all over again. Breed Positive says, it makes me so mad too. I'm a teacher, and it's so scary how addicted to sugar kids are. And the thing is, Bree, you know this as well as probably anybody. When those kids are on sugar, they are bouncing literally off the walls. And their ability to learn and ability to concentrate, none of it's good. And the thing that got me when I was coaching for a period of time, I coached a kids soccer team. I did a little bit of coaching of a kids basketball team, and they were mandated as part of this program to bring a snack during the break of the practices and during the break at the end of each game. And all the snacks were this kind of stuff. And so they give them a Capri Sun, a Kool-Aid, Hawaiian Punch. They would give them that kind of stuff. And I'm going, okay, that, and then they'd have crackers or cookies or some other snack. It's like, what universe is that ever a good idea? Why can they not get bottled water? Why can they not get nuts? Why can they not get some other cheese crisps? There's all kind of things that you could give as a snack that would not be near as detrimental to these kids. Oh, but they need their carbs for energy. No, they don't. No, they don't. Hopefully it's going to change sooner than later. But that's where we were. Brooke Lindsay says, I hated Hawaiian Punch. It hurt my throat. Yeah, it did have a really acidic kind of burn at the end of it. That's for sure. I liked the flavor of it, although I'm sure now it would be so sweet it would just overwhelm my taste buds. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about how your addiction to sugar today very specifically could have happened as a direct result of cigarette companies buying up all of these companies that sell Hawaiian Punch and Kool-Aid and all this other sugary swill. They bought them up because they could no longer market to kids their cigarettes. So they're like, okay, not going to let us do that. We will market sugary swill using the same tactics, the same kind of additives that they put in the tobacco. I don't think enough people realize this. They don't know the shenanigans of what went on. And as a 40-something-year-old guy now who was a kid when all of this was going down, I am utterly disgusted by this. Not disgusted by a company trying to make money. I think capitalism is a beautiful thing, so I'm not anti-capitalist, but I think using false pretenses as a way to peddle this kind of stuff onto people. When I was a kid, Hawaiian Punch was a big thing. When I was a kid, Kool-Aid was a big thing. And to find out now that we were heavily, heavily marketed by tobacco companies to start drinking that kind of stuff. I used to bug my mom and my dad to go get that kind of stuff for me because I had all of these images in my head. Oh, hey. Oh, yeah. Here comes the Kool-Aid man. And it made kids want to have those things. And the kids were powerless. We weren't the ones buying the stuff, but we were the ones being marketed to, bugging our parents to get this stuff. And if that contributed to obesity and insulin resistance, and for a lot of people out there, type 2 diabetes and having a heart attack in their early 40s, this is horrible. And they better be careful, because I think there is a class action lawsuit waiting to happen. Now that all of this stuff is out there in the open, I would be stunned if there wasn't some kind of legal ramification. I don't know about how they can prove it, but this is pretty bad, you guys. Grandma Does Keto says, the ones driving me currently crazy are all the Go-Gurt dunkers. It's cookies and sweetened gunk. Yeah, Grandma, we could go down the whole list of all of these things being promoted as healthy these days. It's pretty disgusting. Oh, and little kids drinking the energy drinks with sugar and caffeine. Yeah. So, guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, eyes wide open. We are learning more and more new things all the time, all about how we got so addicted to sugar. We already know from a story a couple of years ago that Big Sugar directly paid Harvard researchers to squelch bad news about sugar and its effects on our health. So that was in the late 60s. This stuff we're talking about here today, with the big tobacco companies buying out the sugary drink companies, that all happened late 60s, early 70s as well. So, and then high fructose corn syrup coming around 1972. It's all right there, interrelated. No wonder so many of us got addicted to sugar. No wonder so many of us got obesity. No wonder so many of us deal, even now, later in life, still deal with the ramifications of all that sugar. I mean, just sitting here, I'm just stewing about it, thinking, what would have happened? How would my body have responded if I was eating real whole foods? If I never got exposed to sugary drinks like Kool-Aid and Hawaiian Punch and Tang and Coca-Cola and all of these things? It just makes you shake your head and makes you wonder. At the end of the day, I'm glad I get to do what I do now, but I would trade all of it, to go back in time and not have to go through the metabolic damage that took place from drinking all this stuff. And to be happily healthy today, doing whatever I would be doing. I hope you're as disgusted and disappointed as I am, because I'm just sitting here, I'm just mulling over it, and the more I mull over it, the more angry I get, the more upset I get that the powers that be at the time that were supposedly watching over us collectively and our health, the doctors, the dietitians, the people involved in trying to keep our collective health as a society intact, they said nothing. They said nothing. And they correctly got rid of Joe Camel. So Joe Camel, you could no longer market because, oh, that's marketing to kids. It's a cartoon character, and cigarettes we know are bad. Why did they not apply that exact same litmus test to all of these sugary drinks? So we wouldn't have had the Kool-Aid Man. We wouldn't have had Tony the Tiger. They're great. We wouldn't have had Toucan Sam. All of these characters that shaped the foods that we consume when we were kids and even into adulthood. All of those things led us down this path to disease. Why couldn't somebody see that coming? There was either a lot of people paid off to stay silent about this, to which if I was somebody in the public health world that had the ability to call out these companies like this, there wouldn't have been enough money in the world for me. There would not have been a price that they could have paid me off from speaking out. And maybe that's why I speak out so boldly today. I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't have to make sure I have any special, I have no special interests. The special interest that I'm about is you. You guys are the ones that I try to speak up for now. And we have all of these companies that are peddling things in the same way that all these tobacco companies bought all these sugary foods. Guys, if you missed this article, go look it up. How Big Tobacco hooked children on sugary drinks. It's eye-opening, all of this behind-the-scenes stuff that went on. That when they could no longer target kids with cigarettes, they targeted them with beverages that were sweetened with sugar. And it got us all addicted. And it's just so disappointing. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you can start off over on Instagram with us. We do a couple of live videos every day. So go follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man. That's LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content, just like all of these people did here today. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it does disappear. So pop on over to YouTube, type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form is on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at jimmyrants.com. We'll be back real soon with this week's Nutritional Pearls podcast, Jimmy Rants crossover episode with my lovely wife, Christine Moore, nutritional therapy practitioner. We're going to talk about the positiveness of red meat and why you want more red meat in your diet, not less. So stay tuned. We'll be back real soon with that. Bye.